Okay. All right, guys. So I am going to be recording this presentation. So if at any point you just decide, listen, I want to watch that again, it was that good, then you can do it. And I will be sending round the link tomorrow and you guys can watch it back. Looks like we got a nice blend of some of our process programming community from some of our affiliates, some of our online subscribers, and we have some people that we just know in the community who've just dialed in who aren't currently part of the process. So super cool that you guys kind of carve out time on your Friday evenings wherever you are in the world, or Friday afternoon if you're in Sweden, Jonas, to join us on these things. The whole intention of these webinars is to not only kind of just give you guys a bit of an update on what's happening, whether that's kind of like training related or it's process related, but it's also just a chance for us to kind of connect. Most of the time you guys are probably watching videos of me and Ant and the rest of the coaching team on WhatsApp, and I think it's really important that we do have these connection opportunities. It's hard to travel around the world and see everyone all the time. So if we could do it every few weeks or every 5 to 6 weeks on a Zoom call, then that's better than nothing. So at the end, if you guys have any questions or thoughts, please just whack them through on the chat box, or of course you can just save them at the end. Would love to just wrap up the call with a bit of a Q&A and just a little conversation, or if anyone's got anything they'd like to share, would absolutely love that. So we're going to try and wrap this up in about 45 minutes. So here's what we got on the schedule for today. We're just going to start, as we do with every webinar, which is basically mapping out our plan for the 2023-2024 season. So that will include what we've already done so far this season, where we're currently at right now, and then where we're going to, coming up for our future training cycles as we move towards CrossFit Open, quarterfinals, semifinals, and all that good stuff. We'll talk a little bit about this current training cycle and if there are any changes that are happening to the training cycle. We've got some testing coming up in weeks 8 to 12. We've got lots of testing coming up. So kind of wanted to talk to you guys through when we're going to be testing, why we've designed our testing to be that way. So, I mean, even if you're not doing the program and you're a coach, hopefully you guys can pick up something in this call as well. We're going to talk about some of the events that we have coming up for the rest of this year. And we're going to be traveling around Asia. So wanted to share that with you guys. And if you happen to be in Asia as well, in any of those places, then we'd love to connect with you guys. Or if we're not traveling to your country and you would love us to travel there, then of course, let us know. We would love to try and make that happen. Some process programming updates that we have coming up, as a business, accessory programs, making adjustments to programs. Those are the kind of staples that I'm always going to talk about on these webinars. So let's crack on. Okay, let's quickly talk about this year and how we've mapped this out. So, if you haven't been a part of these webinars before, we'll always start with this because it's really important to bring context to what we're doing right now and why we're doing it. So at the end of last season, when the CrossFit Open and quarterfinals, semifinals wrapped up, we sat down and as a coaching team, we review the entire last season, and then we create a rough template as to what we want the next 12 months to look like. How we do that is we start with the time in the year that we're trying to peak our athletes for. So for most of us, that's the CrossFit Open or the quarterfinals or the semifinals. And then we work backwards from there all the way up until the very first day of our preseason training. So the first training cycle after CrossFit Open. So let's have a look at what that has looked like so far. So we started the year with a 12-week accumulation phase. And if you have no idea what accumulation, intensification, competition, all these big fancy words means, don't worry. Next slide, I'll talk you guys through it. So we started the year with 12 weeks of a lot of kind of like structural strength work, bodybuilding, some skill-based work. But basically this first 12 weeks, there was not a lot of CrossFit there. And that's intentional. This is all about building our foundations. After 12 weeks, we went into 6 weeks of like higher intensity work. So a little bit less strength and structural balance work, a little bit more in terms of CrossFit-y style metcons. Then we had the summer throwdown, which was a little 3-week competition that we kind of factored into our training cycle to give people the experience of doing a little online competition. And then here's where we are right now. We're going through a 12-week accumulation cycle. And on Monday next week, we are about to begin week 8 of the 12-week cycle. So if you're in this call and you're not a part of the process programming and you're kind of thinking that you might want to join the process, but you're not sure when to do it, what I will say is that, you guys can really join it at any point in time. What we do every single week is we provide an update as to what we're doing this week, how it fits within the cycle. And so we can just kind of help you guys make adjustments to the training cycle. Okay, what do we have coming up after the 12 weeks? We're going to go move into a 7-week intensification cycle to basically finish off the 2023 calendar year. After that, we basically start what we call open prep. So January time, we start ramping up our training a little bit. If you are someone who follows our Live program and our Perform program, where your priorities are to peak for the CrossFit Open, then you're going to really start ramping things up here. But if you're in the Compete and the Elite program and your goal is the quarterfinals and semifinals, then in January, we're not going to be going too crazy yet. We're just going to slowly start ramping up. And then around about just before the CrossFit Open starts, for our Compete and Elite guys and girls who are chasing quarterfinals, semifinals, that's where we'll start to step up a little bit. Little note for you guys, if anyone is thinking about trying to go team for things like the semifinals, or you're thinking that you might qualify for the semifinals as an individual, then we will be starting some different training programs after CrossFit Open. So we'll be starting a team training program, and we'll be starting an age group training program. So if you're qualifying for the Masters quarterfinals or teens quarterfinals, then we will sort that out once the Open is finished. From here, we obviously compete in the CrossFit Open and the quarterfinals. And if we have any athletes who qualify for the semifinals, we will move you guys to individual programming, and that will be a part of your program. So if that is your goal, you want to get to the semifinals, then you will follow the program up until the quarters, and then we'll shift you over to individualized programming so you can crush the semifinals. And then, of course, once that finishes, we just do it all over again. We review what we did this year, what went well, what didn't went well, and we make some changes and we map out next year and we do it all again. Okay, so let's quickly talk about those kind of big fancy words that I was using there. So some terms that you saw on there was, we saw accumulation, we saw intensification, competition prep, competition, deload, and taper. So this is basically how we break up the training year. Basically, when we do these training cycles, some of our training cycles are 6 weeks, some are 8 weeks. Right now we're in a 12-week cycle, a longer one. Basically, we put a bit of a definition on each training cycle. So when you see the word accumulation, which is what we're in right now, generally speaking, our training looks a little bit less like the sport. Like we might be isolating movements a little bit more. We might be doing like a bit more strength support or accessory lifts like clean pulls, snatch pulls, bodybuilding work, maybe a bit more of a strength focus. When we have intensification cycles, which is what we just came out of and where we're going next, our training looks a little bit more like the sport. So when we say more like the sport, that really depends on which training group you're in. If you're saying the Live program, where our goal is to kind of just excel at life, but also prepare you guys to be able to do the scaled CrossFit Open if you want to, well, then in intensification cycles, we're still going to have a lot of strength work. Still going to have a lot of isolated bodybuilding work, skill work, and some kind of CrossFit Open type metcons. If you're someone who's in the Elite program, for example, and you need to prep for the quarterfinals and the semifinals, well, intensification phases are going to look like tests that we might see in those two formats. So you might see odd object work, lots of running in there, basically a really open book, because we know that so much can be tested in those phases. The next phase we talk about is competition prep. So this is the training phase or training cycle that sits just before we go into a competition. So let's take the CrossFit Open as our example. Before the CrossFit Open starts in March, the kind of 5 to 8 to 10 weeks before that will be our competition prep phase, where we're basically replicating what the sport actually looks like to basically prep our mind and body to actually do the sport. So this will generally be what we call like the highest intensity training phase of the year. After competition prep, of course, comes competition phases. Now, if you have a competition phase, this means that our training is no longer the priority. Our priority is actually doing the competition. So if you're someone who does high rocks races, then, you would prepare for a high rocks race, do a little competition prep phase 2 weeks before the race, and then you would compete over a weekend. Same thing for CrossFit, same thing for any sport. So training takes a backseat, and the goal is just to compete in the competition, and we should be at our best then. And then, of course, we have deload and tapers. This is where we basically put a deliberate break or reduction in the volume intensity between training cycles before and after competition. So as a very general rule, what we follow is as we move closer to competition or the peak, each preceding accumulation and intensification phase will look more like the sport. So for example, we might have over a year 3 accumulation phases. But that doesn't mean that each accumulation phase looks the same. Accumulation phase 1 right at the start of the year will look a lot less like the sport. And the last accumulation phase, as we're a bit closer to the competition, might look a little bit more like the sport. So generally speaking, if you look at our training over 12 months, our training over the year is generally getting a little bit more intense and is starting to look a little bit more like the sport. So that, over the year, we're being able to handle more volume, more intensity, we're refining our skills. And when the competition season rolls around, we are ready to give it 110%. Obviously, the opposite to this is a lot of training programs just do a lot of volume and a lot of intensity and a lot of the same thing all year round. And what that means is that, okay, whilst it might keep you fit-ish all year round, it means that you don't have more gears to give. It means we don't have specific times of the year where we're focusing on specific things. And generally speaking, when competition time rolls around, athletes typically feel quite burnt out. Maybe they picked up a few injuries because of too much intensity and too much volume. So that when they get to the competition, they feel like they have nothing to give. And that's not what we want. One of our big philosophies here at the Process is that not only are we trying to get athletes in the best shape possible, we believe in longevity, which means that we don't want to just do it for 1 year. We want you guys to be able to do this for the rest of your life. And in order to be able to do, cool physical tasks and have it not negatively impact your health, then, our training years should look like different variations of intensity, different variations of volume, different variations of movements and what we're actually doing in our training. We can't just go hard all the time. And that's something that, we really passionately believe in. Even for the best athletes who are trying to compete at the CrossFit Games, you got to think about life after this stuff and life during this stuff. This shouldn't be taken away from other aspects of your life. If anything, for most of us, this should be contributing to allowing us to get more out of other aspects of our life. Of course, if you're a full-time athlete and your number one life priority is just to compete in the sport of CrossFit, then, for sure, then that's going to take more precedence and maybe, health isn't the most important thing. Okay, hope you guys, hope that all made sense. That's kind of like the more technical stuff of this webinar, but I do think it's really important you guys can understand this kind of stuff because you're going to see this language a lot in the way that we share our information about what we're doing. So if you can understand this stuff, then the training program is going to make a lot more sense to you. So just some real quick recaps. The goals of each training group within the Process program. The Live program is not to excel at the physical demands of life and to be able to safely take part in the Scale CrossFit Open. So for us, we're trying to peak for February, March. That's when our training is going to be the most intense. For the Perform program, our goal is to RX across the Open. So of course, our goal has to be at our best when the CrossFit Open rolls around in March. For the Compete program, we're going to have 2 peaks. We're going to have a little peak for the CrossFit Open, which means that we're going to make sure we prepare our athletes for the Open, but it's not going to be the most important thing. And then we're going to have a big peak for the CrossFit quarterfinals. And of course, for the Elite program, the goal of the Elite program, guys and gals, qualify for the quarterfinals and the semifinals and the CrossFit Games. It was really cool to have 2 athletes from the Process compete the CrossFit Games last year, Ant Haynes and Lee Coates. So, we 100% believe that this program can get you there if that's actually your goal. Okay, testing. Now let's quickly talk about, this is gonna be specific to the guys and girls on this call who are doing the program. We are currently finishing off week 7 and we're about to start week 8 next week. So I want to talk you guys through what we have testing wise coming up between weeks 8 to 12. And then once I've told you guys, kind of talk through what we have coming up, I will break down why we have laid it out that way. So next week, the Perform and Compete guys and girls, we're going to be testing their muscle ups. Perform, we have a 5-minute bar muscle up AMRAP. We do this test every year. It's a great way for us to get data and see if our athletes are progressing year on year. And then for the compete program, we have 30 ring muscle ups for time, which is, kind of a benchmark workout. The sport of CrossFit, it gives us a good indication as to our athletes' muscle up capacity. Moving into week 9, the only testing we have this week on the elite program is going to be 30 ring muscle ups for time as well. So in the same way that compete will be doing it, elite do this test every single year. Moving into week 10, on Monday, our live program, we're going to build to a heavy snatch 2 reps. Now, for a lot of our live athletes, the snatch is a lot more of a new movement. So that's why we don't go for a 1 rep max, and instead we go for a 2. We're not really looking at this as a true expression of strength. For most of our live people doing the snatch, this is going to be more an expression of technique and efficiency. Our perform, compete, and elite, we're going to be building to a snatch 1 rep max in week 10. And also in week 10, the next day, we are going to do, everyone is going to do a 1 km row time trial. Happy days. I just posted a little video explaining which Ant put together, which is awesome. It basically talks you guys through how to attack a 1 km row test. So do make sure next Tuesday when we do our last week of tapering for the row test, make sure you guys watch that video and practice kind of strategizing how you're going to hit that 1K row. And then we move into week 11. Our live program will build to a clean and jerk 2 rep max, as well as a front squat 3 rep max. Our perform, compete, and elite, they will build to a clean and jerk 1 RM and a front squat 1 RM. We've been working on all these things, for a long time now. So I'm excited to see, what everyone's able to hit. Then our final week of the cycle, our perform program, they're going to be doing, everyone's going to be doing some pull-up testing. Perform, going to do 75 chest to bar pull-ups for time. Compete and elite, going to do 100 chest to bar pull-ups for time. And then our live program, we're going to be retesting our strict pull-up 1 rep max. So last cycle, we built to a 1 rep max pull-up. This cycle, we've been doing some pulling work throughout the entire 12 weeks. And then we're going to see if we can make some progressions on our strict pull-up 1 rep max. Okay, so let's quickly talk about testing. Like, why is testing important? I think people often sit in 2 camps. First camp is that they don't ever do any testing. And the other camp is that they test a little bit too much. So really, testing serves a few important purposes, not only for the individual, but also for people like myself who are writing the training programs. So most important thing is the data collection. Testing just gives us a chance to really see where our athletes are currently at. And the process programming, all of our programs are what we call semi-individualized. So we look at the data or the ability levels of people who follow our programs. And then we look at that, we identify where their strengths and weaknesses are, and we use that information to build future training cycles. So basically, we're always looking at what is the average live athlete able to do? What is the average perform athlete able to do? Compete and elite. And what we have is we create these avatars. So kind of like you can imagine you've just got like this perfect model of each male and female within each training group and what they can currently do. And then we build the training around that. So, if when we test, our perform and compete athletes, have low clean and jerk scores relative to their snatch or relative to their front squat or relative to previous tests, we know that in the next cycle, we're probably going to have to bias and prioritize our clean and jerks because, clean and jerks is an important part of the sport. So that's number one. We've got to collect data. And as well as for you guys get a chance to, push your training a little bit harder on that day to really see what it is that you have to give. Most of our training over the year, we program what we call reps in reserve, RIR, and we're rarely asking you guys to go to a max. But every now and then, when we prescribe testing, you have this unique opportunity to kind of push towards discomfort a little bit more. So, a great chance to see what you guys are capable of as well. Then we move to next one, which is develop the skills of testing. If anyone has ever done testing before, and testing could be in training or it could be in a competition, we know there's a lot of emotions and feels that come with testing. A lot of people can get really anxious, really nervous, create way too much expectation as to what they think they should be getting. And it just generally feels a little bit different. So we want to build, by giving you guys testing throughout the year, we're giving you guys the ability to improve your ability to handle, you know, those higher stress, higher pressure situations. And ultimately, we want to attack a test the exact same way we do our normal training. It's often our mindset that gets in the way, and we make it so much more than it really is. So the more frequently we can do testing, if done in an intelligent way, the better we're going to get at being able to do it. And if you're someone who likes to do competitions, or you like to do hard things in your life, like you're an adrenaline junkie that likes to do other sports, or you do, you know, public speaking, or these really challenging, uncomfortable things, you know, doing hard tests in your training and other aspects of your life will have massive carryover to all of those things. And I guess the last one is mental resilience and stress tolerance, right? You know, if we can learn to create the tools and have the ability to navigate challenging things in training, that's going to have a massive carryover into other aspects of our lives. So another question I was asked was, you know, well, why do we spread the training over 4 weeks? Why don't we just do all of that testing in 1 week and just get it out the way? Well, you can do that for sure. But the only problem is when you do a lot of testing in a really short period, is because typically when we test, there's a lot more mental energy and focus that goes towards it, as well, of course, as like a lot of physical strain. So when you're doing something like a 1K row, if you truly sell your soul in a 1K row, we know that it's probably going to be a couple of days before you're bouncing back and feeling good again. So if we load all of our training in a really short period of time, let's say 1 week, what happens is two things. Number one, we don't train in that week because all of our energy and time has to go into testing. And number two, at the end of the week, we're just smashed. And if we're smashed at the end of the week, that means we can't excel and show up in other areas of our life. And then we're going to probably have to take a prolonged deload phase at the end of that week to bounce back and recover. So by spreading our testing over a 4-week period, and when we're kind of having some of these weeks a little bit harder than others, so you might have like a tough week where we do a clean and jerk and a front squat and a row test, but then the next week you might just have 30 muscle ups for time, right? So we're not just making every test equally as hard. And what that allows us to do, it allows us to spread the fatigue and strain over the 4 weeks. And of course, it just allows us to keep on training. You know, we don't want our testing to have to take away from our training all the time. Training is fun, training is important, and therefore we can find a way to drip feed the testing in whilst also being able to train. Well, that's a win-win in my eyes. Okay. I feel like we moved one. Okay, cool. So that kind of concludes what we have coming up this cycle, guys. Kind of just a little reminder that a big part of this training cycle was about getting strong. We really wanted to prioritize our Olympic lifts because we hadn't put like a 12-week phase of Olympic lifting through together. We also hadn't put like a 12-week cycle of front squatting. You guys have seen that we've been putting this A/B template in, right? So kind of every other week, our training changes a little bit. And the whole idea of doing that, it allows us to still build progressions on certain things that we're going to be testing, like our clean and jerk, like our snatch, like our squat, like our bench press. It allows us to do a 12-week progression of certain things, but it also allows us to have a bit more variety with our training. So you can kind of mix other elements in there. We can kind of change things up every couple of weeks. It feels fun. It feels less monotonous, less repetitive. So that's the whole idea behind having that A/B template. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the kind of change up that we've had this cycle. Moving on, I'd love to quickly talk about a few things that we have coming up at the process and kind of what the rest of our 2023 year looks like. Firstly, I don't know if he's on this call right now, but we do have a new member of our team. You guys might have seen him. You guys might have spoken to him on calls or on messages and whatnot. And if you haven't, or you've been a part of the process for a long time, you probably would have thought this guy was an employee anyway. So Mr. Chris Toison, who's based over in Shenzhen, he's joined the team and he's our community manager. So one of his major roles is going to be bringing this community together more, whether that's online subscribers, that's our affiliates, and of course the individual coaching course when we release that soon this year. So if Chris does shoot you a message, do remember that he's just not some random person out there to annoy you. He actually is a part of our team, and he's doing some pretty cool things. And yeah, I'm really excited to have him with us. A couple of things for anyone who's a coach out there or anyone who just loves understanding more about training, programming, and assessment. We're going to be finally releasing our individual coaching course on the 1st of November. we're going to release our course to all of our process programming affiliates. So if you're an affiliate or you're a coach at an affiliate, you guys will have this included, and you will be our first guinea pigs on the course. That's actually a lie. We've had our coaches at Coastal run through it already. And then on December 1st, we're going to be releasing the individual coaching course to the world. So just a bit of information on that. We're going to have 6 stages within that. We're going to be covering everything from initial consultations, how to run assessments, how to write resistance training programs, so kind of like weight training programs, how to write energy system training programs, so metcons, how to write that in a progressive manner and build structure there, how to write blended programs, so how do you combine resistance training and energy system training. And then we're going to talk about, how to develop yourself as a coaching professional. It's going to be 24 hours of video content. It's all going to be online. You're most likely going to have the ability to, sit down with myself and the coaching team to have kind of monthly mentorship calls. I got loads more information that's going to be coming out there, but just keep your eyes peeled. Something else we want to make, a big move towards doing this year and next year and moving forward, now that travel is a lot more openly available to us here in Hong Kong, is we want to support athletes at competitions. So we have booked in a few dates for the rest of this year. We have just taken part in the Asian Fitness Championships in Shanghai, which was awesome. We had 7 athletes competing from the process around Asia, and included, winners on top of the female and male elite stage. But it's just really cool to kind of get that community and that family together and hang out for a few days. I'm going to be going down to the Bangkok Throwdown in Bangkok on November 18th and 19th. So if anyone here is going to be in Bangkok at the same time, we have also 7 athletes competing there. And my job will be to connect with them and everyone else and help those guys throughout the weekend. We're going to be going to the Dubai Fitness Championships and is going to be competing. And we have a lot of athletes over in Dubai who follow the program. So we'll be connecting with those guys, most likely running a workshop or a seminar. So if anyone happens to be in Dubai or is going down to watch, please let us know because, we'd love for you to be involved in any process programming events that we have when we're there. And then we're going to be going to the Cebu Throwdown in Cebu, 13th of January. It's going to be a 1-day competition. I'm going to be programming that competition as well, which is super exciting. We got some really cool ideas happening. It's going to be an awesome 1-day event. So if you guys are in Philippines, maybe you fancy a weekend trip to Cebu to enjoy some sunshine and some fitness, please let us know. We're going to have a big community of process programming people down there, affiliates, as well as individual subscribers. We'd love to hang out. We are going to be holding an athlete camp. Every year we hold an athlete camp at Coastal Fitness, and this is going to be, I believe, our 7th consecutive year, bar 1 year in the pandemic. So that's going to be on January 20th to 21st. It's going to be 2 days. It's for all ability levels. So, if your goal is to do the cross or open scaled, or, you're trying to get to semi-finals, that athlete camp is going to be a mixture of education, training sessions, give you guys a chance to do some competitive workouts. We're going to be inside the gym and outside the gym. We're going to have feedback groups. So you'll be kind of having a coach looking after a small group of athletes throughout the entire weekend. That's open to process programming and non-process programming subscribers. So we've just started promoting that. We do have an early bird price. So if you're not a part of the process, you want to be involved in that, sign up before some date in November. I should know that, but I can't remember it. And you will get a discount. And of course, all process programming members will get a discount on that camp as well. And then lastly, we will be visiting our affiliates. We're going to be visiting Manila next year, just before the Cebu camp in January 8th to 10th, hanging out with the guys at CrossFit All Out and CrossFit Ethos. We're going to be working with their coaching team, to level up their businesses. But also we're most likely going to be running things like small seminars and workshops for people to join. So if you are in Philippines, you're close to Philippines, keep an eye out because we're going to be going down those dates and would love to see you guys and hang out. Okay, right, let's wrap this up. A couple of just like last reminders here for those who are part of the program. I'm kind of going to go over these things all the time. How do we work on our weaknesses following a group program? A little reminder, we do have accessory programs for you guys. So twice a week, we program Olympic lifting, strength and hypertrophy, which we call our general accessory, endurance and gymnastics. So if you're feeling like you need some extra exposure to certain movements, or you have a weakness that you want to work on, or you just want to develop your skills in one of these areas, Then twice a week, every Monday, Friday, we program, accessory programs, and those accessory programs always factor in what we're actually doing in the training cycle as well. So you shouldn't be getting, clashes in terms of movements. And of course, we do offer the premium subscription. So if you're an online subscriber following from afar, premium subscription means you'll have a coach assigned to you. That coach will be giving you guys video feedback, accountability, daily messaging, helping you guys prep for small competitions in the year, and basically just being that support network that I think a lot of athletes need. So if that speaks to you, then of course we do offer that subscription as well. Making adjustments to the program. I mean, whether you're a part of the process or you get individualized training from a coach or you follow a group program elsewhere, I do think that this is probably the biggest missing component that athletes get wrong. And what that is basically you have a training program provided to you every single week, and a mistake is following that program to a T. What we should be doing instead is doing what we call self-regulation. We're massive advocates of this. Remember, coming back to the importance of longevity. And what we mean by that is it's your responsibility to look at that training program every day and every week and to make adjustments to that program based on how you're feeling, what you have energy for, and basically what's happening in your life outside of the gym. So if you're going through stressful periods, if you're not sleeping well, if there's problems at work, if you're on holiday, all of these things are going to factor in to what you actually have available to give to your training every single day. And the person who is ignorant to all that and just does what's on the paper or what's on WhatsApp because they pay for it and coach told them to, is probably going to be the athlete that runs up, with injuries and burnout and all that kind of stuff that we want to try and avoid. So just a few little reminders here. Every day on the training program, you can still follow the program as a subscribe, but maybe put your energy into certain components of that workout. So rather than hitting the whole workout with 110%, maybe there's some clean and jerk work and you want to just focus on, nailing your technique on that thing that day. Maybe there's some skill work with double unders or chest to bar pull-ups or muscle ups. And you decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to take the intensity out of everything else today, but I'm going to put a lot of focus and energy into that one part. The next idea is a jigsaw puzzle. And I will admit that I treat my training program and I follow the compete program. And I treat it like a jigsaw puzzle all the time. And what I mean by that is, I look at the training that I have coming up for the entire week on a Monday, and I understand all the pieces that I want to get in, but I just move things around all the time. So for example, like if my knees are feeling a little bit beat up and it's a Monday, I might move, more upper body movements from the week onto a Monday, and I do more lower body movements on the Tuesday. And I'm kind of just picking pieces from the week and matching it together. Maybe I'm, changing around training days. I'm moving things around. So at the end of my week, I'm still getting all the training in. It's just in a slightly different order to suit the energy that I have to give and to suit how my body's doing. So, for a lot of you guys and girls who maybe you're coaches, or maybe you have, a day job outside of the gym, and the gym is something you squeeze into your mornings, lunchtimes, or night times, then you're probably going to have days in your week where you feel more energized and you feel like you have more to give to your training. You're probably going to have days in the week where you feel less energized and you have less to give to your training. So for example, if the day that you feel less energized is something like a Monday session, which is like, more weightlifting and heavier work, maybe it makes sense to kind of not do all that heavy stuff on the Monday and maybe put in something like an easier aerobic Tuesday on the Monday session, and then save the heavier work for a day where you feel like you can actually do it. Now, of course, if you're training an affiliate, and you're attending group classes, then that's always a little bit harder to do because you are kind of confined to class. So really point number one is going to apply more to you guys, which is kind of pulling back and pushing based on what you feel you have to give. Of course, we talked about adding accessory programs or fixed length programs to further customize your training. We're in a process right now. We're going to be prioritizing more of this in 2024, but we want to be building more fixed length programs. So this will be things like 6 to 12 week training cycles where we'll focus on a specific thing. Maybe it's, we have a squat program. Maybe it will be a handstand push-up program. Maybe it'll be a deadlift program, things that we'll recommend that you can add in or substitute in your training to kind of further get after your weaknesses. Taking rest days or combining sessions together kind of comes back to the jigsaw analogy. And of course, if all of this is overwhelming and you want to follow the program, but you're not really sure how to do all this kind of stuff, then you can always, ask for a coach to help you through the process, which would be our premium subscription. Or of course, we have the water cooler there every day. The water cooler is a chance for you guys post your questions, which I think our community is pretty damn good at doing. Post your questions as to how to navigate training, and someone on our coaching team or the community will get back to you and help you guys out there. So see that as an opportunity to get free advice. And 100% you guys should definitely use that more. Okay, cool. Last thing, I talked about this on our last webinar. This applies to our individual online subscribers, but I think, just the power of environment, especially with CrossFit training, can often be quite hard, and sometimes quite hard to do alone. I think it's really important that if you can do training sessions with like-minded individuals, maybe you're lucky and you get to do that every single day, which I know I'm very lucky I can do that. But maybe you're someone who most of the time trains alone, and every now and then you get this opportunity to train with other people. I would recommend that that's something you should do. I think personally that training, not only should it be progressive and, needed for whatever your goals are, it should also be fun, and it needs to be enjoyable. If we want to be able to do this thing for a really, really long time, guys, but you're not enjoying the process, you're dreading showing up for your training sessions, you're struggling with motivation to get the job done by yourself, I would say something needs to change. And if that means going off script a little bit, changing up the training program to train with other people, do it. You have my full support in that. So what I often say to people in the process is, we have a lot of structure from Monday to Friday with our training programs, but often every Saturday we have a Saturday tester, which kind of like goes off structure, and there's a chance to kind of just do some good old CrossFit no matter where we are in a season. That Saturday is a great chance for you guys to kind of go off script a little bit, jump in and work out with other people, do similar workouts. At the end of the day, it's just, doing some CrossFit that's appropriate for you and your ability level. So again, I just want to say, because I know a lot of people join this program and feel that they should be doing everything to a T if we give it to them. No, take full responsibility, take ownership there, and feel free to use those opportunities to train with others and get a great training session in. And then lastly, of course, our affiliate program is growing. So we have new gyms popping up around the world. All these gyms are incorporating the Live, Perform, Compete program in their gyms, and a lot of them have people or coaches who follow the elite program who train in that gym. So you can always travel out, or if you live in one of these areas, get yourself down to one of these gyms so you can join in with their community or their coaches or their open gym members. We've just had a brand new gym that's opening up in a couple of months in New Zealand, which is coincidentally, Josh, because you're here, is also called Ethos Fitness and Recovery, and they had no idea that your gym was called CrossFit Ethos. So obviously that's a trending buzzword for 2023. So yeah, I can promise you guys this list is going to continue to grow, and the goal is to have a network of amazing gyms and amazing coaches doing great programming, and you guys as online subscribers, you guys get a big discount if you travel to any of these affiliates. So yeah, just wanted to remind you guys of that. And that's a wrap. That's a wrap, guys. What I would love to do now, I'm just kind of checking the group to see what questions came in, and nothing came in, which means that I crushed the presentation and I left no stones unturned. But thank you, Jonas. If you guys have any questions related to anything, I would love to spend the next 5-10 minutes or so answering those or having a conversation. I also have no problem just sitting here on a silent Zoom call. I've done that many times and I don't feel awkward whatsoever. So I'm just going to hand this over to you guys. And if anyone has any questions, I would love to hear them. If you don't have any questions, you can just give me a thumbs up, which will basically say, no, Ed, I'm all good, and I will not bother you. Oh, lots of thumbs going up. Okay, love it. Listen, I think we've done like 5 iterations. Oh, Momo, have you got a question?
Can I ask about the athletes camp next year in January? Would the coaches be working out as well?
Are you looking for some competition, Momo?
I mean, it'll just be interesting, I think.
Well, listen, I won't be working out, Momo, but that wouldn't be competition for you anyway. It'll be myself and Ant will be most likely leading that camp. So Ant will not be doing that. But if you want to come down a few days before Momo and work out with the team, we welcome you to do that. Just make sure you got a bit of a gap and rest before the camp starts, because otherwise you're going to be getting helicoptered back home in an ambulance.
Thank you for the heads up.
Would love to see you though, buddy. I would love for you to fly out from Japan and join us.
Yeah, I would like that too.
Awesome.
Every workout you lose to me, you have to give me $500 US there.
I'm like taking out my savings just to get over there.
Okay, awesome. Well, guys, if no one's got any more questions, then I'm going to ask everyone to turn on their cameras so we can have a big old cheesy team photo. Come on, Gian. I know it's late. You've probably done a night shift and haven't slept in 24 hours.
Andrew, can you please take that down?
It's on. Here.
Okay, cool. Get those cameras on, everyone. Come on, Ivan. Oh, and Ivan, I know you're in the office and you're not supposed to be doing
What's happening?
Nice, Lou. Love the background. Let's go, Isaac Fu. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for the balloon celebration, Gian. Love seeing you guys on here. You just actually seeing your faces and instead of just your one-up results is actually really, really nice for me and really nice for us. So appreciate you guys taking the time out of your Friday evening to join us. We will be doing another one of these once this cycle finishes in 4 to 5 weeks, and we'll be talking through what we have coming up in the next cycle. If anyone's got any feedback on how, what you guys think of these webinars, if you like them, you don't like them, what we can do better, please send that stuff through to me. We're always looking to improve and grow. Okay, guys. Well, have yourselves a lovely Friday night. Have yourselves a lovely weekend. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you here in 5-6 weeks, if not before.
Good night, guys.
See you guys. Good night.